Imagine if a single touch could take a life. The young noble, the Duke, was cursed long ago by a witch, abandoned by society and even cast away by his own family. But by his side is Alice, his fearless maid who refuses to leave him no matter what. The story begins with the Duke writing a letter to his parents. In it, he tells them that his curse, one that causes everything he touches to die, still shows no signs of breaking. We then see a flashback where his mother, afraid to live with him, suggests sending him away to their villa. She coldly refers to him as death incarnate. He touches a flower on the table, and it instantly withers. As he continues writing the letter, he is interrupted by his maid, Alice, who tells him that his tea is ready. Victor feels uneasy with how close she stands to him. Victor admits that he never actually sent the letter, claiming he was only practicing. And why she keeps seducing him, even though she knows his touch means death. And Alice suddenly lifts her dress, teasing that he must want a peek. Flustered, Victor denies it and warns her to stop her constant teasing. Alice apologizes but admits she simply can't help herself. Victor, however, tells her that he worries for her safety, because the last thing he ever wants is to lose her. With her face leaning dangerously close, she offers him another cookie. Victor reaches out for it, but before he can take it, she slips it into her own mouth. He freezes until, hesitantly, he takes a bite from the other side. The moment is charged, and when Alice lets out a soft moan, his face turns crimson. She teases him, calling it an indirect kiss, and Victor's shyness only deepens. Later that day, Victor sits alone on a swing. The world around him is quiet, yet his mind roars with thoughts of the curse. As he lowers his head, lost in sorrow, a small butterfly drifts past him, brushing lightly against his hand. In an instant, its delicate wings shrivel, and it falls lifeless to the ground. That very moment, Alice appears and tells him that his reaction only makes her want to tease him even more. She playfully lifts her gown again, trying to lighten his mood, but Victor's face flushes red as he warns her that he's still a man, one who might give in to her temptations. With a mischievous smile, Alice steps closer, pinning him against the tree without ever touching him, and whispers whether he'd like to touch her. The next morning, Alice greets Victor in his bedchamber with a bowl of water to wash his face. After he finishes freshening up, she brings him breakfast. Victor insists he isn't very hungry, but after Alice's gentle persuasion, he finally gives in. She decides to feed him herself. As Victor opens his mouth for a bite, Alice's gaze lingers on his lips, her eyes fixed and unwavering. Teases him softly, "Why don't you look at my lips too?" His cheeks burn crimson, shyness overwhelming him. When he finishes eating and prepares to leave, Alice suddenly says, "By the way, your childhood friend wants to see you." The next day, Victor grows anxious at the thought of meeting Philip and even considers canceling, but Alice gently reminds him that it's already too late. To his surprise, he realizes that Alice not only remembers Philip but also overheard him rehearsing what to say. A flicker of anticipation stirs within him, and he decides to change into a different outfit. As Alice helps him with his tie, she leans a little too close, her chest brushing dangerously near his face. Flustered, Victor averts his gaze and pleads with her not to behave that way in front of Philip. The thought of another man seeing her bare skin unsettles him. With a soft smile, Alice reassures him it's only for him. When Philip finally arrives, Victor greets him at the door with awkward formality, bringing up a prank he used to play on him in their childhood. Philip looks embarrassed and apologizes, but Victor quickly clarifies that he meant no harm and takes a step closer. Immediately, Philip's bodyguard moves between them, his stance protective, and Victor freezes as he notices the fear in their eyes. They sit together, but the air feels heavy. Victor realizes his hopes of rekindling an old friendship may have been foolish. His gaze then shifts to Alice, recognition dawning in his eyes, and he questions why she's with Victor. The inquiry unsettles Victor, but he calmly explains that his butler is currently ill and that Alice is simply assisting him until the butler recovers. As the tense conversation drags on, Philip pulls out a cigarette and lights it. In the process, he accidentally bumps the table, sending the vase of flowers toppling over. Instinctively, Victor reaches out to catch it with his bare hand, only for the roses to wither and die the moment his skin brushes against them. The atmosphere grows heavier, and when it's time to leave, he pulls Alice aside. In a low, urgent voice, he warns her that staying with Victor is dangerous and urges her to come with him instead. Victor overhears the exchange and anger stirs in his chest. He confronts Philip, but Philip recoils, his face pale with fear. "Stay away from me, you're a monster," Philip mutters, stepping back. As he turns to leave, Philip casts one final glance over his shoulder and says coldly, You won't ever see my face again." Alice's heart aches for Victor and she gazes at him with sorrow. Yet, in an effort to keep things normal, he forces a faint smile and says gently, "Come on, Alice, let's have lunch." Victor then sits alone in the garden, reminiscing about all the good times he once had, even with Philip. As he plucks the petals of a flower, he wonders whether the curse will ever be broken and whether his family would ever take him back. He even uses the petals to decide if Alice loves him or not, and to his shock, the final petal suggests that she does. Just then, Alice appears and tells him that dinner is ready. On their way back to the house, Victor confesses that he feels he has no right to love her. He admits that he cannot even touch her and will never know the warmth of another person's body or even their tears. Even if he were to give her a flower, it would wither in his hands. Alice gently picks up the wilted flower and explains that a white rose that has withered means to swear one's whole life to another. Touched by her words, Victor imagines a future where he can place a ring on her finger with his own hands. After that, Victor sits down to read, but Alice leans closer to him with a playful smile, telling him that his reactions are just too cute. Moments later, Rob returns, proudly announcing that he has fully recovered and is ready to serve Victor once again. Victor welcomes Rob back warmly. Rob immediately apologizes to Alice for leaving her with so many responsibilities. Once Rob finishes his tasks, he politely excuses himself, leaving Victor and Alice alone. Victor then gazes out the window and calls Rob a superhuman. He reflects on how Rob has always been by his side, serving as his butler since the days he lived with his family and remaining the only one who followed him into this lonely mansion. Returning to his seat, Victor notices Alice standing silently nearby. He asks why she isn't sitting down. Alice explains that since Rob has taken on nearly all the household duties, she sometimes feels as though her presence might be disturbing him. As Rob serves him tea, Victor expresses concern that Rob might be working too hard. He gently suggests that Alice could share some of the tasks as well. Before leaving, Alice mischievously gives Victor a brief, teasing glance beneath her gown. Later, as Victor walks down the hallway, he suddenly hears Rob calling out to Alice behind him, only to realize Rob is actually reaching out toward him. Startled, Victor quickly avoids the touch. From the sound of his voice, Rob notices it's not Alice and apologizes, explaining that his vision has been blurry lately. Victor dodges him again and remarks that it's simply a sign of old age, reminding Rob that touching him could lead to his death. But Rob struggles to even hear Victor clearly. At that moment, Alice appears. Concerned, Victor asks her to help Rob. To his shock, Rob gently holds Alice's face, confirming that she is truly Alice. Victor steps back, confused by what's happening, and almost bumps into a flower vase. But Rob swiftly moves it away and reassures Victor not to worry. Meanwhile, Victor sits at the piano writing a song. He quietly admits to himself that if his family were ever to disown him, he would try to make a living through music. Suddenly, Alice enters, startling him. She apologizes, saying she heard the music while cleaning. Flustered, Victor scolds her and tells her to get back to her duties since Rob is supposed to be resting. As Alice cleans in front of him, Victor finds himself unable to look away. She catches his gaze and teases him, but he accuses her of doing it on purpose. With a sigh, he sets up a chair and asks Alice to sit and watch him play, suggesting she leave the cleaning for later. Victor begins to play while Alice silently recalls his heartfelt confession in the garden. When the melody ends, she compliments his performance. Shy and flustered, Victor hides his face beneath his cap and softly admits that he composed the piece just for her. If you loved this anime story and want to know what happens next, drop a comment below and I'll make part 2 just for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.